An April 20th drilling rig explosion has claimed the lives of 11 workers, and the rig's subsequent collapse unleashed a major oil spill that threatens the Gulf of Mexico ecosystems and economy. My guest is Rick Kuykendall of the Murphy firm in Baltimore, Maryland, and Kuykendall and Associates in Alabama. He has joined efforts working with a group of lawyers from Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Alabama, and Florida to prosecute claims for those who have been affected by BP's Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Rick, welcome.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Well, Rick, I appreciate you taking the time because I know you're probably very busy right now.
Well, I think nearly everybody on the Gulf Coast is busy these days.
So let's talk about the litigation team that's been assembled first.
I'd be glad to. Scott, this is a kind of an unusual case, and it's going to require lawyers who are very knowledgeable about the offshore drilling industry. So rather than the traditional mass tort or the traditional MDL type proceeding, although this case will probably end up being an MDL, no question about it in my mind, I decided to help organize and join a litigation group that has extensive experience in offshore drilling matters as well as the oil industry. So I'm a part of a 12-person group that has extensive experience over the last 20 years and worked together on various projects together, and specifically lawsuits involving the oil industry and the drilling industry. So there are lawyers that are familiar with all the federal statutes, the Jones Act, the OPA, which is the Oil Protection Act, and all the common law that will be applied. And it's really a great group of lawyers because it has the technical skills and the technical abilities to sort of prosecute this case in a proper manner. It's filled with engineers who are also lawyers, so I'm real proud to be affiliated with it.
Can you give us an update on the severity of the threat? I mean, it appears that the whole Gulf of Mexico could be affected.
Well, I hope not. I mean, it's one of those situations where you hope for the best you pray for the best, and prepare for the worst. But the outlook does look dire. Here's the sort of an update. I mean, I don't think there's any real way. The Coast Guard, NOAA, and I think BP has done their best efforts to try to estimate what the flow is. But there's no real way to know. This is an unusual situation because you have a wellhead that's leaking, and then you have a pipeline that's got various leaks along the way. The pipeline is, if you think of it sort of as an umbilical cord, is still hooked to the platform, which is sunk. In essence, what you've got here is you have a rig, an offshore drilling rig, which was owned by Transoceanic and leased to BP at a cost of $500,000 a day. That it was drilling in 5,000 feet of Gulf water when it had this explosion, and all the safety systems on the rig failed. The manual panic buttons that are triggered by operators, as well as the BOP system, which is the blowout protection system. It just completely failed to engage, and it was the only quote fail-safe automated system on the rig. So this rig's drilling in 5,000 feet of water. There's an explosion. It runs up the line. Rig catches fire. The rig eventually burns and sinks in 5,000 feet of water. So there's this open well spewing. So you oil spill, you have a continuous series of spills, or one big spill that continues. So then that spill hasn't abated or stopped since it started. The flow estimates are variable, but a reliable number and one we could use for this interview, and that may change over the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks, is about 5,000 barrels a day. There are 42 gallons in a barrel. You do the math, and that comes out to somewhere around 210,000 gallons per day since this spill began, and going into, as I say, a continuous spill and continuous leak. So it's just spewing oil down there. And currently, the company is attempting to put some domes up around the well to stop the leaking, or to abate it at least, get the flow down a little bit, while they drill what are two relief wells. The relief wells take between 60 50 and 120 days, about 90 days on average to get drilled and operational, and that's if they work. Let me point this out to our listeners. You've got two basic relief wells, as I understand it, that they're attempting to drill. One would be filled with would send concrete, other non-porous materials to the wellhead to try to fill up the stop the leak. But the other one would be to relieve the pressure on it and have oil actually come up through the other well, bypass for lack of a better word, just sort of bypassing where the wellhead is. Or the problem with these wells is that, as I understand it from the industry, these wells have to be drilled in 5,000 feet of water through about 13,000 feet of rock, and they have to hit an area that's about 7 inches wide. So there have been estimates that in addition to getting the well operational, it may take more than 2. And so we're looking at, if you do the math, the number of gallons I just went to, and assume it stays at a constant, an awful lot of oil in the Gulf of Mexico.
BP has taken responsibility for the accident and cleanup. Can you talk about the consent agreement?
Well, I think let me say this: BP's public statements, and then and those of its CEO, that they are going to assume responsibility for this accident, and also that they're going to, quote, pay all legitimate claims, is encouraging because of a variety of legal issues that might rise about limitations on liability. But BP is, to date, sort of indicated publicly through its CEO that it's going to step up to the plate and pay these claims, and we applaud them for doing that. And, of course, under the acts and also under general liability theories, they are responsible for the cleanup cost, no matter what those are. They've got to pay them in addition to any, quote, limitation that might be imposed as to damages. But we don't think limitations apply in this case for lots of reasons. But having said that, I applaud the company for at least saying that their intention is, and their public statements have been, to pay these claims. And I don't think the judge has quite entered it, but the parties have agreed to it, and it's been signed off on, is a unique thing. Unfortunately, last week, whether it was inadvertent, as the company claims, or intentional, doesn't really matter to me. The company announced a policy, BP did, of asking fishermen and others to come down and use their boats, for example, to help aid in the cleanup efforts. The logic and the pitch was, well, you're idle because you can't fish, so why don't you come in and use your boat to help, and we'll pay you to do that. And, of course, this goes to helping with mitigation of damages and the like. And so when the fishermen showed up to sign up, a lot of them did, a lot of my clients did. We represent the Commercial Fishermen Associations, several of the organizations down there, and some individuals. They were presented with a very sort of lawyer-like document, rather lengthy, called a charter agreement, and release. And what that document purported to do, among other things, was to limit the company's liability to whoever participated under this program and helping, to not only what damages they might incur as a result of helping, but also for anything related to the oil spill. That's overbroad. In our view, we thought it was overbroad, overreaching, and we thought, frankly, it was against public policy. So we sought